Hi, and welcome back to Speak Up, Get Clients. How to use stories to do the selling for you. Stories are so powerful, they act as invisible selling. And this is by far one of my favorite techniques because people love stories. The minute they know you're going to tell a story, they relax. This now becomes this, and they relax and they sit and they're ready to listen to your story. So stories act as invisible selling. And the better storyteller you are, the better seller, of course, you are. So we're going to dig in right now. Now, there's 4 different types of stories that you need to share and have in your speech. Now, the most important one that has to be in every single speech, maybe it's 5 minutes, maybe it's just a sentence or 2, and that is your professional story. Your professional story is the story that earns you the right to be speaking about what you're speaking about. It's the story that may take your audience from rags to riches, from mess to success, and people love the journey. They love to know what you went through. So your professional story earns you the right to be speaking about what your topic is. Now, if you'll remember in our introduction, I gave you my personal story of how I started out. I didn't plan on being a speaker, and I started out kind of rough, didn't I? And then through training, I got better and better and better until today. I am now teaching thousands and thousands of people how to speak. So your professional journey will take them, your professional story will take them on your professional journey. So I want to share with you the formula. There's a formula to create your professional story. And this is the formula that you will use in your 30-minute signature talk. So it goes like this. You always want to start out with a time and a place. A time and a place. If you remember my story, it started out with back in the 80s. That was my time. I was in corporate America. That's my place. I didn't have to say Los Angeles. Only bring in what is relevant to the story. And it didn't matter whether it was LA or Chicago or New York to my story. Everyone has their own idea of what corporate America looks like. So in my case, it didn't matter. In your case, it might. All right, so time and a place. Start with a time and a place. And then start with that story grabber. That story grabber that will just kind of, grab them right in. A story grabber. And then in one of my grabbers, I said, I never planned on doing public speaking. It was sheer by accident. So the next one is character development. You want to develop yourself as a character and any other characters that may have played a major role in getting you where you are today. And then what are the character desires? My desire was to speak and to get clients because I knew if I didn't get results, I could lose this job, right? And I was downtown LA. I was very young. I was in a beautiful building with mahogany all around. And it was just fantastic. And so I didn't want to jeopardize that in any way. And I knew that something was wrong, but I didn't know what it was. So my desire was to get clients to stay in that position that I was in. But I came up opposition, right? I came up opposition or a problem. Now, if you think about every folktale, and that's how all stories start out. Once upon a time, in a village long, long ago, and that's your time and your place. And then they develop the character and the desires, and then what happens? The opposition happens. The wicked witch, the villain. There's always a hero and always a villain in stories. And the villain for me was that woman that came up to me and said, do you know that after every sentence you say okay? That was my opposition because I didn't know. And I would have gone on continuing. So even though it was opposition and it was a problem, it was the wall, it sent me the other direction. It sent me to get help. It sent me to get trained, to master public speaking, which I did. So what did you overcome? What obstacles did you overcome? And then, of course, the story resolution. What happened after that? In my case, I continued up the corporate ladder until I couldn't go anymore, and then I started my own company. All because of that opposition, all because of that defining moment where that woman spoke the truth. So story resolution, and then of course the wrap up of the story, which is, what are you doing today? And I like to share with people, put in your little elevator speech there. So today, I train, so I might say today I teach business owners and entrepreneurs how to use public speaking to market themselves so they can get more clients, generate unlimited leads, and grow their business fast. So that's kind of a wrap up of bringing it in today. So you have this as a handout. So what I want you to do for your action work after this module is to develop your story. And I want you to write it out and develop it, build that character. And then I want you to email it to me at Arvee, that's A-R-V-E-E, at Arvee, A-R-V-E-E, Robinson.com. And I want to take a look at it and give you some feedback, okay? Great. All right, so what are the other stories? The other stories after the professional story is your success story. Now, I told several of these in the modules. I talked about Hector, I talked about Pete, and I talked about Jenny. So those are examples of success stories, and I'm sure you have several of them yourself. And then story with a lesson, that was my camel story. And I share that story in almost every speech that I give because it's an extraordinary story that demonstrates how using a system can get you to the top of the mountain and where you want to go. Now, when you do your story with a lesson, typically you do not share the lesson. Let people get it for themselves, whatever the lesson is for them, and they will. And oftentimes after your speech, they'll come and tell you what that lesson is, and that's just so rewarding. The last story that we didn't talk about yet was the emotional story. Now, emotional stories don't have to always be sad or crying on stage. As a matter of fact, funny equals money. So if you can use the emotion of funny, then, well, that might be a lot more better. So I like to share a story now. It's a story about my husband and I. Now, my husband is a bum magnet. Yes, he is. He has such a kind, sweet face, and he's a Christian man. And a bum can see him from across the parking lot, and no matter who else is in the way, go right to my husband and ask him for money. And of course, my husband always gives it to him. And one day we were going into Vons, into the supermarket, and there was a bum sitting on the steps right before we went in. And he stopped us and he said, he asked us, he said, "What is the greatest nation in the world?" And my husband said, "Well, the United States, of course." And the bum said, "No, it's donation." So my husband gave him $20. He doesn't usually tip that much or give that much, but that was so funny to him that he gave him all $20. So see, funny can equal money. So if you can think of fun stories like that you can use as emotional stories and get your audience to laugh, their hearts open up, and of course, so do their pocketbooks. But there's other kinds of emotional stories, and I want to share with you 3 people that some you may know and some you may not. But these are leaders who have changed the world with their story. And the first one I want to share is somebody that's not really a public figure. You may not even know her unless you're in either 1, San Diego, or 2, have breast cancer. That's right, because her name is Christine Horner, and she's a plastic surgeon. And what she does is reconstructive surgery for women who have been butchered by doctors. However, back in the day, insurance would not pay for it. And this made her upset, right? That doctors would butcher, but yet they wouldn't pay, the insurance wouldn't pay to fix it, to clean up the mess. And so she lobbied herself for years and years and years and years, until finally she is sitting in front of Bill and Hillary Clinton, signing a bill that insurance companies had to pay for reconstructive surgery after a woman's had a mastectomy. So you can thank her, your friends can thank her. She's one of these silent leaders who have changed things here anyway in California, and changed the laws because she took a chance and stepped out and voiced and let her voice be heard and her message be heard. And then there's Martin Luther King Jr. Of course, we all know who he is. Down in history, we know what he did. We know, his history. But did you know, this is one thing you may not know, that when he spoke at the Washington Monument, his famous speech, I Have a Dream, do you know that he gave that speech over 100 times? Yes, most people don't know that. They just think he stepped behind the lectern and gave that brilliant piece of work, when in fact, like every speaker, he practiced. He gave it first at town hall meetings. He gave it in small neighborhood meetings. He gave it to churches. He gave it in everywhere he could. He spoke to anyone who would listen. And by the time he reached the Washington Monument, he was ready. He was ready. And that's what this is all about, is getting you ready. That's what these modules have been about, is getting you ready to speak, getting you ready for your message, getting you ready for you to step on stage. Remember that you have a message to share that only you can share to people that can only hear it from you. And it's time to get that message out. People are waiting. And then the third person, again, you may or may not know her. This is Candy Lightner. Now, Candy was a single mom. Real estate is what she did for a living. And one day she's out shopping with her girlfriends, and she comes home and she sees her ex-husband and her mom and dad sitting on her porch. And her ex-husband comes down to the car where she still is in behind the driver's wheel and said to her that she can't find their youngest daughter, Carrie. And so Candy just said, well, she's around here somewhere. Let's find her. And the ex-husband said, no, we lost her. We lost Carrie. And so, Candy just, beside herself, got out of her car and went up to her parents to find out what happened. And she found out that Carrie, her 13-year-old daughter, was walking with a girlfriend to a church festival when a drunk driver hit her. And the drunk driver hit little Carrie so hard that her little body flew up into the air 125 feet, and that her organs were not even fit for donation. Candy was upset. Candy was mad. And so later she found out that the drunk driver was found by his wife wiping the blood off of the bumper of his car, and that the wife turned him in, and he got 72 hours in jail. And that was it. That made Candy even more mad. And she decided to form an organization called Mothers Against Drunk Drivers. Mad. Yes. And it went wild. It went all over the nation. Before long, she had hundreds of chapters set up, hundreds of women, hundreds of mothers. And she did it by what? By speaking. She first started speaking in neighborhood groups, and then churches, and on and on and on and on, until her voice was heard. She even was in a movie about it. So your voice is just as important as these three. Your message is just as important. The only difference between these three leaders and you is they stepped out. They got trained and stepped out in faith and started sharing their message to the world. And you can too. So this is a message about don't wait. Don't wait until it's too late to get your message out. This is a former fitness trainer of mine. His name is Martin. Now, Martin saw something in me that I didn't see, and that he thought I was a natural born runner. I've never ran a step in my life, not through any of my schooling and PE classes was I ever considered a runner. But Martin saw it in me. And so he had me running, and this is a little 5K we were in that we started in. But he saw me running a marathon, 26.2 miles. I couldn't believe it. And I just told him, no, you're crazy. I'm never doing that. That's crazy. And then not long after that, this is my older brother, Val. My older brother, Val, told me that he had lymphoma, and which is a blood cancer, and that he was going to be undergoing treatment. And not to be surprised when I saw him the next time. Well, as you can see, he's got lots of hair, and I believe he was born with that mustache. And next time I saw him, he had puffed up like a balloon, and he didn't have any hair anywhere, and he did not look like the brother I grew up with. So I was beside myself, and what can I do? What can I do? Just about that time, my trainer and I, we ran around the Rose Bowl, and we came across some people in purple called Team in Training. And what you do is they'll train you for a marathon, and you raise money to fight leukemia and lymphoma. And I thought, oh, this is perfect. It's a win-win. So I joined, and I ran my first marathon. And then I joined another marathon. And in the first year, and it's not about, yes, I did finish. I didn't win, but I did finish both marathons. But this isn't a story about finishing or winning or any of that. It's a story about our team in training. There's team in training all over the world. But our 40 people in our chapter raised over $1 million for leukemia and lymphoma research, right? That's the story, and that's the glory of doing something like that. And here's my brother. This was Christmas a few years ago. This is my twin brother right here, and this is my older brother, and he's in remission now, and we're very, very grateful. And I don't know, maybe the donations helped. I hope so. But again, this is a story about not waiting. Don't wait until it's too late for you. You see, even though my brother is out of danger zone, he always still has to be careful of getting sick because his white blood cell counts and his immune level is not as strong as it used to be. So he can't be around sick people. He can't go out in a group of people or in a seminar. He can't go out and speak. He just doesn't have the energy. You know, all the treatment has taken a toll on his body. So don't wait. We never know what's around the corner. So this is time for you to step out on stage, for you to take this training and use it, or get more training and use it. So Napoleon Hill says, don't wait. The time is never just right. So if you think, oh, well, I'll start speaking next year, or I'll start speaking next month, do it now. Do yourself a favor and do it now. And remember that your message is here to save lives and to stop people suffering. So don't keep them suffering. The next steps. So the next steps, I'm going to give you the next steps in the next module. It's just a next step module. But for this module, to end all of these modules, I just want to congratulate you for completing this program and just say thank you for being with me. Pat yourself on the back and say good job. So again, if you want to continue, go to the next module and I'll give you some ideas on how you can get more. So bye for now. Mwah.